The sales achieved by a saleswoman to the nearest €1,000 in the 6-month period from January to June are given in the table below. So the first row in our frequency table is the months, so January, February, March, April, May, June. And the second row is sales in €1,000. So for example, in January, there was €9,000 sales. In February, there was €12,000 sales. In March, there was €15,000 sales, and so on. Part 1. What type of data is represented by the months? The months are categorical, ordinal data. So categorical because it's word data, and ordinal because it can be ordered. January, February, March, April, May, June. There's a specific order. Part 2. Show the data on a bar chart. So the bar chart is shown opposite. So we have our x-axis is the months from January to June. Our y-axis is the sales in thousands. Very important to note that the bars, the green bars, are all equal width. And also very important to note that the gaps between the bars are also equal width. Part 3. If she gets a bonus of €100 for each month in which her sales are above €11,000, what bonus does she get for the 6-month period shown? So she earned more than €11,000 in February, March and May. So we can see in February she earned 12,000, that's more than 11,000. March she earned 15,000 and May she earned 17,000. So there were 3 months where she earned over 11,000, so she gets €100 for each month. So her bonus for the period is 3 times €100, which is €300. The sales figures to the nearest €10,000 of the salespeople in a company over a 3-month period are given in the table below. Part 1. Show this data on a multiple bar chart with the salespeople listed on the horizontal axis and the sales represented by vertical rectangles. What is the purpose of displaying the data in this way? So our horizontal axis shows us the people. So we've got Peter, Susan, Helen, Keen and Anne. And our vertical axis shows us the sales in €10,000. So we're going from 0 right the way up to €140,000 or €150,000. So Peter had sales figures of €80,000 in January, and January we can see here is color coded as black. So we go up to 8 and we draw a vertical rectangle. Peter in February had sales figures of €111,000. So the white bars represent February. We go as far as 11 and we draw a vertical bar. And in March, Peter had sales figures of €140,000. And March is represented by the grey bars. So we go up as far as 14 and we draw a vertical bar. Notice that they are all stuck together. We then do the same for Susan for January, February, March. Helen, January, February, March, Keen and Anne. So what is the purpose of displaying the data in this way? The purpose of showing the data in this way is to display how each salesperson has progressed over the 3-month period. So note the importance of an explanatory key below the bar chart. So this is very important, otherwise you wouldn't know which bar represents which month. So we can clearly see that Peter has progressed over the 3-month period. His sales figures are going up, whereas Susan and Anne's sales figures are going down. Part 2. In what other way could the bar chart have been presented with vertical rectangles? What different effect would this give when compared to the bar chart in part 1? So what other way could we have drawn this? The vertical rectangles could have been grouped by month rather than by salesperson. So we have 5 groups of 3. We could have had 3 groups of 5. So we could have had Peter, Susan, Helen, Keen and Anne all grouped together for January. and then the 5 grouped together again for February, and then the 5 of them grouped together for March. This would have allowed comparison of the salespeople with each other on a month-by-month basis. Part 3. The company is interested in the total sales month on month and on the proportion of sales achieved by each salesperson. Use a stacked bar chart to present the information in this way. State an advantage and a disadvantage of this type of presentation. In a stacked bar chart, each rectangle is broken down into its component parts. In this case, the sales of each salesperson. So for example, the bar here representing March is broken down into Peter's sales, Susan's sales, Helen's sales, Keen's sales, and Anne's sales. Likewise for February, and likewise for January. Because there are only 3 months, we will draw the monthly rectangles horizontally. So they're going horizontally now as opposed to vertical. First, we need to calculate the total sales for each month. These are, in €10,000, 50, 49 and 40 for January, February and March respectively. So if you add up all the sales for January, you'll end up with €500,000. So we can see January goes right the way across to 50, which represents €500,000. The advantage of this type of display over the multiple bar chart is that it allows observers to see the development of the total sales on a month-by-month basis, as well as what proportion of these sales is achieved by each person. The disadvantage of this type of display is that it can be difficult to compare the month-by-month sales of all salespeople, besides Peter. So since Peter is first, we can clearly see that he had most sales in March and the least in January. And we can clearly see the number of sales. So for example, in January, he had approximately €80,000. We can do this because Peter comes first and he starts at 0. But it's more difficult to do that for Susan, Helen, Keen and Anne.